Politics. William Barr defends federal deployments to break up protests. Intense hearing. Democrats, Republicans use hearing to preview themes emerging in the 2020 presidential race. Barr, House Democrats clash over federal response to protests. You may also like. Up next. 0 o'clock, 2:01. During a House Judiciary Committee hearing, Attorney General William Barr and panel Democrats sparred over policing in the black community and the U.S. government response to quelling nationwide protests. Barr also defended his decision in the Roger Stone case. Photo, Chip Samadova, Getty Images. By Sadie Gurman. Updated July 28, 2026, 5:57 p.m. ET. Share. Text. 691. Attorney General William Barr clashed with congressional Democrats Tuesday at a hearing in which he rejected accusations he is working to politically boost President Trump on a number of fronts, including by deploying federal agents in response to protests and his personal intervention in criminal cases involving the president's allies. In his first congressional appearance in more than a year, Mr. Barr said the federal response was needed to confront violent demonstrators and fight crime in cities where local officials had done little to keep their streets and federal property safe. What unfolds nightly around the courthouse cannot reasonably be called a protest. It is, by any objective measure, an assault on the government of the United States, Mr. Barr said during the tense House Judiciary Committee hearing. He was referring to clashes in Portland, or. Democrats disputed that characterization. State and local leaders in Oregon have asked that the federal troops leave because the reaction has actually been in reverse proportion, said Representatives Zoe Lofgren, D., California. People are showing up because the troops are there, and I'd say most of them are nonviolent. So this brutality has created even more demonstrators. The Portland protests have become the latest flashpoint in nationwide demonstrations over police brutality and systemic racism since the May killing of George Floyd by Minneapolis police. Those recent protests were the subject of several questions from lawmakers, as was the forceful removal of protesters near the White House in early June, where officers used smoke bombs and other munitions after Mr. Barr ordered them to clear the area before an appearance by Mr. Trump. The Attorney General said protesters had grown unruly and began throwing objects at law enforcement officers in Lafayette Square in Washington, D.C. National Guard Major Adam DeMarco, who was there, testified Tuesday at a separate House hearing that officers violently cleared the park without provocation. Mr. Barr at times appeared a bystander amid the partisan jousting in the almost 5-hour hearing that offered a preview to the coming 2020 presidential election. Republicans, echoing what has become Mr. Trump's law and order campaign message in recent weeks, praised Mr. Barr as a defender of the rule of law seeking to restore order both on the streets and inside the Justice Department after investigations consumed much of Mr. Trump's first 2 years in office. Democrats countered with questions about racial inequities in the criminal justice system and sought to portray Mr. Barr as the president's enabler who had escalated confrontations with protesters to manufacture scenes of chaos.